Hey, it's Mike here, and today I'm going to be debunking or just responding to a few TikToks in my new series I'm calling Ticked Off, because I'm mad at people on TikTok. I'm not actually mad. I just thought it'd be cool to have a series name, and you might have heard something, and that is Diego, who I am currently babysitting, and you might hear a little pitter-patter here and there. Those are just his ferocious claws on the hardwood floor. All right, now to the first video that I'm going to be responding to, which is a personal trainer comparing Larry and Lenny's vegan protein cookie to a McDonald's cheeseburger.
I'm going to get so much hate for this. Is a protein cookie healthier than a McDonald's cheeseburger?
It has 2.4 million likes because who doesn't like hearing good news about literally eating fast food? And the part that I'm really trying to debunk here is that a McDonald's cheeseburger is a food that is healthy and you should be including in your diet. And yes, she is directly encouraging people to eat these because, as she commented, you always have the green light to eat a cheeseburger. I don't think that this cookie is a health food or anything like that, but what she's saying here I think is damaging, so let's just go.
Just like before, we're going to look at the entire cookie and the entire cheeseburger, because in all honesty, who's eating half a cookie? And when they advertise 16 grams of protein, they're referring to the whole cookie. Okay.
She starts off by ignoring that an actual serving size is half of the cookie, and the cookie is pretty big, but to be fair, she says, yes, the front has 16 grams of protein on it, and that includes the whole cookie, so we might as well look at the whole cookie. Where she fails logically, though, is that people are only gonna then eat one of these mini McDonald's cheeseburgers, and thankfully the comment section was kind of catching on to that, with one guy saying, my problem is that I would eat 10 of the cheeseburgers. Anyway, because of this, I'm occasionally gonna add a third comparison, which is a Big Mac, because using her logic, people are going to eat more than is presented here. Anyway, let's get to it.
First up, calories. You've got 420 calories in the protein cookie. You've got 300 calories in the cheeseburger.
She hits calories first, saying, oh my god, this cookie actually has more calories than the hamburger at 420 versus 300. I would also add that that Big Mac has 550 calories out there. So she's basically looking at like a slider, this tiny burger.
Fat, 12 grams in the cookie, 13 grams in the cheeseburger. Carbs, 59 grams in the protein cookie, 32 grams in the cheeseburger.
She is, of course, afraid of carbs, so when she says there's 59 carbs in the cookie, it's like, oh my god, that's so scary. But then the burger only has 32 grams of carbs, so that's like a win. Of course, studies like this one have shown that vegans who eat more carbs have about a 70%, actually 78% lower total risk of all diabetes, at least in that cohort. But sugar is worth talking about, and she says,
sugar, you got 25 grams in the cookie, 7 in the cheeseburger.
So 26 for 7. It's also worth mentioning that really only 19 grams of that cookie sugar is added sugar, which is the most important. But I have to mention, this is meant to be sort of an analog for some type of other sugary chocolate chip cookie, and she's comparing it to a savory meal item, you know, not directly comparable. And this brings us to fiber. There's 10 grams of fiber in that cookie, which of course is subtracted from that total carbs. It helps people feel more full. It's fiber, you know, is associated with lower mortality and so on. The cheeseburger is, get this, just 1.3 grams of fiber, which is abysmal. Now, part of our body's fullness mechanism is directly related to how much fiber you eat and then the propionate and things that are created from that. So yeah, this is not gonna make you full in that sense. But yes, the cookie actually has more grams of protein in it than that burger does. So yeah, you can't be complaining about vegans not getting enough protein nowadays. Now let's look at those things in the burger that she just forgot entirely, and they're really important. Like, for example, sodium. The cookie has only about 200 milligrams. Well, that little burger has 745 milligrams. By the way, a Big Mac is up around 1,000 milligrams. And globally, we're talking about like 1.5 or 2 million deaths a year from excess salt consumption. So, you know, maybe worth noting. Let's do some rapid fire stuff. The burger contains some cholesterol, which obviously the cookie doesn't. They both have saturated fat at around 5 or 6 grams, but as I've mentioned before, and from this study, animal-based saturated fat raises LDL more than plant-based saturated fat. It also has about 1 gram of trans fat, that burger does. That burger also has carnitine, which is broken down into TMAO, which is a major concern for heart disease. And it's also worth mentioning that the burger is a class 1A carcinogen according to the WHO because it is processed meat. I don't think the cookie is. And that's largely because it contains heme iron, among other things. And that brings me to the random additives that are in McDonald's, which would probably need a whole video unto itself. But you are all aware of this. But by comparison, some of the additives in the cookie include lecithin, which is shown to lower cholesterol. And what about growth hormones? I haven't looked at this in meat in a while. Does McDonald's comment on that? Yes, it's fine because they aren't actually injecting the growth hormones. They're just putting it in the feed. Because that makes any difference in terms of the meat hormone content? No. I can't believe anybody would consider eating a vegan cookie. So gross. Don't worry, we're about to move on to more TikToks, but first I just have to put it in context. We have to ask the question, are vegan cookies a major source of heart disease and other disease in the US? No. Is fast food and things like McDonald's hamburgers? Yes. From this study, yes, fast food intake is associated with greater overall and cancer-specific mortality, which is death. Finally, McDonald's hamburgers and generally McDonald's foods are made from the cruelest factory-farmed meat, which I don't think anybody wants to be taking a part in, so don't eat it. Next up to a very important TikTok shining light on why oat milk is not actually vegan.
Let's talk about oat milk for a second, okay? Everybody loves to talk about how oat milk is a vegan milk substitute. However, it's actually an animal byproduct. It comes from this man's titties.
I am shook. I am quaking. I'm quakering in my boots right now. No, I just thought I'd have to troll you a little bit there. Anyway, let's move on to the next one, which is this dude's blood work as a carnivore. I just have to debunk the notion that this guy's blood work is healthy. His cholesterol total is about 280, and his LDL cholesterol, specifically that bad cholesterol, is over 200.
The important things to look at here when it comes to health are HDL, triglycerides, and fasting glucose numbers.
I think the important thing is to look at none of the horrible markers on my blood work. No, it's LDL that actually kills people. We'll talk more about that in a second, but it's nice to see that the comments are not buying it. One guy is like, if you go to the doctor, absolutely no way are they going to be like, these numbers are great. LDL doesn't matter. We have to go back to this study and the chart in that study looking at the amount of atherosclerosis and how many places that atherosclerosis is in based off LDL levels. You can see the more LDL, the more atherosclerosis progression that people had. And yeah, he's about 50 points off of this chart.
Having high total cholesterol and LDL is not an unhealthy thing. In fact, having high cholesterol is not a good indicator of your heart disease risk, nor is having high LDL levels.
It literally sounds like he's reading a meat industry script. They're like, look, we know carnivore is super expensive. We'll give you all the meat you need if you just read this on TikTok. No, there was no study cited or anything. But he actually has a more obscure ratio that's a risk factor that I've seen carnies whip out before. Here he is.
Best indicator for your heart disease risk is your triglyceride over HDL ratio. And as you can see, mine is extremely low, which is very good.
I've gotten in debates about this before, and they always send me this study, which, yes, says that this triglyceride to HDL ratio was the best marker. However, there are major issues with not just this study, but also applying it to somebody like a young man, and it could do a whole video on it, but let's just hit some of the main points. One, this is an observational study, which would be, okay, but it is a tiny amount of people for an observational study at just a few hundred people. Number two, these are people that are high risk of heart disease. Most of them have moderate to severe atherosclerosis scores, and they are up around 60 years old on average. That brings me to number three, which is the most important point here, which the researchers also point out, and that is because of their bad disease state, it is common to be using statins and other medication, which would be lowering LDL cholesterol. This is important because over a lifetime of having high cholesterol, high LDL, and building up atherosclerosis, they then have really high levels of atherosclerosis, but take statins, crash their LDL, and then all of a sudden the association is gone. But statins don't affect HDL the same way, so it's going to leave the positive effect for HDL. So HDL markers like the one he's relying on is going to look really good compared to LDL. And number four, even despite that, in their logistic regression model, the LDL was still associated with higher risk at actually comparable amount in that model to that ratio. And by the way, his LDL was 50 points higher than the study average with these people with severe heart disease largely. By contrast, we can look back at that study I mentioned before, which was 1,700 people, which is significantly better. And it also was looking at people with no clinical symptoms of heart disease, and they averaged in about their 40s, which means they were not taking a bunch of statins, which means this is way more relevant to this guy's life. Higher up on the chart, I'm sure a lot of people have some large fluffy LDL like he's trying to defend himself with in the comments, but he's, again, 40 points off that chart. Where do you want to be? You want to be down in that 50 to 70 range like a lot of vegans are, most vegans probably. And here's the reaction of a doctor, Dr. Mike, after having a very similar cholesterol levels, total and LDL were really close to that. He said,
my LDL cholesterol was 185. Getting into the 190s is like potentially have a heart attack at age 40 with no symptoms bad. And I don't want to have a heart attack. I don't want to die. It was a brutal wake-up call for me.
I just did a video on this. He decided to eat more plants, lowered his cholesterol significantly. I was making the argument that he could go even further anyway. That'll be linked in the description. But finally, I might as well just echo the European Society of Cardiology saying that yes, LDL cholesterol is causally linked to atherosclerosis. Anyway, let's get on to the next one, which is something that can't really be scientifically debunked. It's more my opinion. Now, with 24 million views, this video of a rancher and his dog, he's saying, is really sad because he's taking home a baby calf and thinks that he's going to be replaced. The dog is jealous.
Please don't be upset. It's just a baby cow. Look, it's just a baby. He's not your replacement, Bandit. I love you.
Well, it appears that about 6 million people think it's cute or funny that this dog is, quote, jealous. At least one commenter got it right, I think. Quote, maybe he is sad because the baby cow didn't have his mama. Yes, this rancher who grows animals to kill for meat just took this baby cow probably directly away from their mother, and the dog might be picking up on that, and it is an Australian Shepherd kind of mix. So here's what I think the dog was actually thinking.
Please don't be upset.
Of course I'm bloody upset. You're a child snatcher, you sick bogan.
Look, it's just a baby cow we're taking home with us.
Can't even look at you.
He's not your replacement, Bandit. I love you.
Said you love beef too. Reckon you're gonna eat me for brekkie when I'm fat enough? You're mad as a cut snake. I don't know that dog super well, but if you were to get a puppy that was not directly taken away from their mother, would this dog be acting the same way? In that case, maybe the dog is jealous. If the dog is like playing with the puppy and stuff, then yeah, it's because you just took away a baby calf from their mother. Finally, every time I do a TikTok related video, I want to spotlight one creator at least, and I recently stumbled upon Veganzinga, I believe is how you say her name. Anyway, she has a bunch of videos helping people go vegan, and she just has this video with her mother, which I think is pretty great. I don't think I can use that sound, but it's like, Mama said that it was okay. Mama said that it was quite right. Anyway, I'll link her account in the description below, but the point is, this is like the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg of stuff on TikTok that is just kind of wrong, nonsense, anti-vegan or pro-meat in some way, and there's just so much I need to respond to. So because of that, expect more of these types of videos. Also, yes, I'm in here. I'm still working on building a studio in this house and getting good lighting and so forth. It's a really cloudy day. Otherwise, there's nice lighting here. But I also completely rebuilt a kitchen from like scratch. And so if you guys want to see that and the things I did, if it's interesting, let me know. Anyway, feel free to like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know if there were any rebuttal points I missed in the comments below. All right, thanks for watching.